Hello everyone, thank you very much for watching another class of like online class we're doing from Kagawa headquarter, Yamato headquarter from Japan. And so we are doing, this is going to be the last online class we're going to be doing this year, 2020. And my name is Akira, I'm going to be a host for this class, and this is maybe my colleague. She's making really good noodles today for the last class we're going to have for this year. And so we're talking about today, this is one of the, from the oldest traditions that we still follow in Japan. That's eat soba noodles on the New Year's Eve. It's like December 31st. And it's going to be a good, very good learning class. So let's get into this class. Please allow me to spend just a few minutes talking about our company. So Yamato Manufacturing, we're 45 years in this business of noodles. So we manufacture noodle machines that are designed for restaurants and small production. These are designed to do fresh noodles from scratch in small scale. And we've been running noodle schools, ramen, udon, and soba noodles. And so we run this kind of school like in Tokyo and Kagawa, here in Kagawa. And we, teach not only production of soups, noodles, soups, and toppings, and menu development, but also operation and management as well, like for people who want to start out restaurants, noodle businesses. And we have customers using our machines in 61 countries and more. And we have offices in Japan, Korea, Singapore, Netherlands, and New York, United States. We have partners in different countries. And so we basically team of noodle making experts who help our customers succeed in their businesses. And so basically by training and providing like noodle equipment and whatever they need to start out and improve their noodle businesses. So for those of you like who are interested in like doing something with noodles, please feel free to contact us. So let's get started this class, and we're talking about New Year Eve noodles. And I'm going to talk about, so first, so why we eat soba noodles or other types of noodles on the New Year's Eve. And because this is the first time we're talking about soba or buckwheat noodles in this class, I'm gonna, like I feel like obligated to talk about soba noodles. So everyone know what soba noodles are, ingredients, noodles, soup toppings, and provide production methods, how they're made. And so basically in this class, what I want to do, right, personally, is that like promote New Year's Eve noodles in your neighborhoods. And after that, we're gonna make noodles, certain types of noodles like Mimigumi is gonna make on our noodle machine from scratch. And we're gonna move to our kitchen, and we're gonna have our instructors who's gonna make a few suggestions of New Year's Eve noodles. And lastly, we're gonna do a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, please send them in the comments. So we're talking about your New Year's Eve noodles. Like it's almost the end of the year, and it's almost 20 years old tradition. Like many Japanese still follow today, and that's eating soba noodles on December 31st. There are several theories why we started eating soba noodles on this day, and around around this time of year, we tend to look back what happened during the year towards and I think it's common for many of us to reflect on what we did this year. So what we could have done better or differently, and make a resolution, wish for what kind of year we wish for the next year. And I think the end of year, around this time, is when we like have moments like these, to ourselves, right? So, and then Well, there are many theories. We started having soba noodles on New Year's Eve, but like here are a few of them. Because soba noodles are thin and long, they're believed to bring a long and healthy life. Um, I think many people like knew like the health benefits of buckwheat before in old days, and I think sort of like a kind of Chinese related like kind of cultures, people who are kind of related to the culture. I think they have sort of like same sort of like belief like towards the eating noodles. So like basically, having like soba noodles like would like is believed to like prolong life and extend one's fortune. Soba noodles like is believed to bring or good luck for money. Well, for gold or silver craftsmen, like in old days, I used to use buckwheat powder to gather scattered gold powder. So based on this, people believe eating soba noodles would attract money or money luck. And because soba noodles are easy to break, people believe eating soba noodles would also help them break off or dispel the calamity or hardship we had over the year. Also, the word soba sounds like a Japanese word for near or close. So people make a wish will be like being close together with loved ones next year by surrounding a table, eating bowls of soba noodles with them. There are many other theories, but like many Japanese or like people who eat soba noodles like certain types of noodles on New Year's Eve. That's for their wishes, the good fortunes that they desire for the next year, break with the unfortunate they had during the year towards the brighter year next year. And so soba noodles, so New Year's soba noodles, they usually serve in hot soup, but it's sometimes like cold dipping noodles for some people. And bowl of soba noodle dish has the following parts: noodles, soup toppings, and because this is the first time we're talking about soba noodles, I just need to like spend just a little bit of time like studying what soba noodles are and what makes good soba noodles. And it's not going to be sufficient to understand like what soba noodles fully in this class, so we'll probably have to like do another class just on soba noodles. And so let's start talking about like soba noodles in detail. Like so, noodles are basically made of like buckwheat, and I'm gonna explain that more in details later. But like buckwheat doesn't have any gluten, so it is difficult to make it into noodles, forms of noodles by itself. So we sometimes need to use like wheat flour or like other binding agents. And soup like hot soup is the stock itself is made of like thick slices of bonito and other types of fish flakes, plus kaishi, which is basically seasoning which is mainly made of like tamari soy sauce. And toppings typically range from like the tempura, shrimp tempura, or like marinated shiitake mushrooms, vegetables, eggs, fish, like marinated herrings. This is just like traditional like hot soup soba noodles. And soba in Japanese means like buckwheat, which is which is actually a grain-like triangular-shaped seed and not related to wheat despite the name. Because buckwheat itself does not have any gluten, it's difficult to form it into noodle shapes. Normally we add wheat flour and other ingredients to buckwheat to make soba noodles. And because we look for like when we eat soba noodles, like people like look for the good aroma of buckwheat, which dissipates into the air like that. Buckwheat seeds are housed mainly using two methods, roller milling and stone milling. Roller milling provides a bigger milling volume, it's faster, but because the milling speed is fast with some heat generated in the process, buckwheat milled on this method like tend to lose the moisture and the flavors. Stone milling grinds buckwheat at a slow speed because between the surfaces of the stone plates, because it generates little heat, the flour retains the moisture and the distinctive aroma, but the output is very low, so it's very costly to mill it that way. But it's definitely better quality. The buckwheat, so the buckwheat seed is first hulled, and resulting flours go through a series of rollers to mill to finer powder. At each set of rollers, the flour becomes finer and sifted through sieves of certain sizes. Ichibanko, which means first flour, is white in color and rich in starch and powdery. Gives a bouncy texture to dough but makes it hard to form noodles only from itself. It also does not give like buckwheat aroma or flavors. So Nibanko, which means second flour, gives superb buckwheat aroma and flavor with rich in nutrition. And the color is light yellow with a greenish tint. So many famous soba shops use this Nibanko because we can make soba noodles with great aroma with this flour. The flour obtained from the outer layer of the seed is called sambanko, the third flour, by grinding Nibanko through another set of rollers. Sambanko gives a strong aroma but has a dark color. Although it gives a lot of nutrition, the rich fiber content makes noodle texture coarse and gives a flavor some people may find a bit unpleasant. The flour taken from the core is called hanako, which is usually used for dusting. And it's a bit, it's a bit like hard to see, like kind of like illustration that we have in this slide, but like you can see, like where each of these grades of like flours are taken from, and so different, so the different like grades of like flours like have like varying degrees of like nutrients, right? The protein, for example, Nibanko, which is like the highest quality of like buckwheat flour, has like protein content of like 10%, even though like Sambanko, which has like darker color, has like highest in protein content. So it has like very different, like varying like nutrients, um, depending on like where the flour is taken from the buckwheat seed. And there are other benefits from we can take from buckwheat. And well, starch accounts for most of the carbohydrates in buckwheat, and buckwheat will rich in minerals, like minerals that are listed in the previous table. And so the minerals like contain 4 times as much potassium as wheat does. It contains over 11 times magnesium as wheat does, 11 times iron and of zinc as white rice, contains vitamin K, vitamin E, choline, and the routine is something kind of special, kind of unique that exists in like buckwheat. It's type of polyphenol, and what it does is strengthen the capillary vessels and lowers blood pressure, regulates blood sugar levels, and helps with diabetes. So it has a lot of good health benefits. And the quality of deliciousness of soba noodles largely depends on the distinctive aroma of buckwheat. And it's like aroma molecules like gradually disperse in the air to concentration below the levels we can detect over time. So after the buckwheat seeds are hulled and milled. So this is the reason why like we freeze the buckwheat flour, and this is why the reason why like noodle making artisans make soba noodles on three principles like fresh making. So buckwheat flour needs to be freshly milled, made to noodles, and cooked and served as quickly as possible. Also, because buckwheat does not contain any gluten, which helps form noodles, you usually need to blend it with the ingredients we call a binder. And these are commonly used binder ingredients for soba noodles, except for wheat flours. So mountain yam brings great flavor and noodle texture. Mugwort is astringent, so it's usually mixed with baking soda to get the scums out. And they're typically like chopped up and mashed and kneaded into dough of buckwheat flours. The funori are types of seaweed that work as strong binding agents, making noodles elastic and tasty. And standard soba noodles are usually made with a mix of buckwheat flour and wheat flours, which are usually high in protein content, which helps buckwheat flours to join together, bind together. And so they are mixed at different ratios depending on the type of soba noodles we want to make. Normally, because buckwheat costs more than wheat flour, the higher the ratio of buckwheat flour mix, the more expensive soba noodles. So 100% buckwheat and Jubari soba and Nihonchi or 80 to 20 ratio buckwheat to wheat are considered high quality and sold at high-end soba shops. Our soba machines can make up to 100% buckwheat soba noodles, and our ramen machines can produce up to 60% buckwheat soba noodles from scratch. And it's like kind of wheat flour, like we will mix it with buckwheat flour to make soba noodles or this type, as like protein content like should be high to help bind the buckwheat flour into noodles. And the ash is something. Ash is basically like how much minerals it contain the wheat flour, and the minerals, higher minerals. So like when we talk about the sambanko, the third flour, the buckwheat, um, even though it has the high the high degree of like aroma, it also has like a lot of minerals contained in it, so it makes the noodle color darker. So that's the same thing. Um, so the darker, like higher ash content, the darker the color, like has like stronger wheat flavor, and but like it makes the noodle texture a bit coarse. So using the wheat flour with like high ash content would make noodle texture like kind of kind of poor. So like, but if you want to use the like a sambanko, like third flour, like a buckwheat, I guess like the color wouldn't like make like much of a difference. So like what you may want to use flour with a high ash content, like when using sambanko buckwheat or like third flour, the buckwheat. And viscosity is basically like how elastic the noodles become. So basically, the higher the viscosity value, the better the noodle texture. So like you should use wheat flour with a high viscosity value. And because buckwheat brings so much health benefits, we should consider blending buckwheat flour into our noodles. Even if you are usually like serving other types of noodles to provide nutritional values to our customers. So we may also want to think about like blending into pasta, ramen noodles, etc. And we can also talk about the health benefits that buckwheat brings to our customers. The blending ratio of each solid ingredients may depend on the qualities of each ingredient, what elements you want to bring out in your noodles and let your customers experience. For example, buckwheat aroma, certain noodle texture, and how well it goes with your soup, sauce, etc. And there's another custom like when we eat at the soba shop in Japan, and so after we finish the bowl of zaro soba noodles, the soba shop like would bring you a picture of like soba yu, which is hot water used to cook your soba noodles, and then to capture and provide nutritional values of buckwheat. Soba shops like provide the soba yu, and because the good nutrients we talked about are dissolved in the cooking water. So customers drink it by diluting the soup with the sobayu, and this gives us like satisfying and clean finish. And it's something like you may also think about doing like in your shop. Okay, so let's start talking about the production process. And this production process like is not really you know limited to production of soba noodles. But let's start talking like so. Soba noodles, like as we talked about, buckwheat doesn't have any gluten, so different from production ramen noodles. We like when we make dough, we are not talking about like building a gluten structure, but basically, soba noodle like if you're doing like 100% buckwheat soba noodles, we are basically like hydrating the so distributing the water throughout the buckwheat flour particles. So as we mix the water with the buckwheat flours with a hand, like with a mixer, the particles like flour, like comes together like gradually, and then that's what like agitation granulation happen like talks about here, like illustrates here. So just like the dough like becomes bigger and bigger over time, like as we mix with the flour. So basically, like what we are doing like in mixing process is a good hydration of dough. And so we uh, we can make soba noodles on our, of course, like on a soba machine, and of course, like we can make soba noodles like up to like 60% buckwheat mix on our ramen machine. So basically, we are forming it into dough, and then like sheet shaped dough, and after that, we're just gonna thin it and cut it and portion it. And unlike ramen or like udon noodles, soba noodle, like we don't really rest it. We don't really go through a resting process. And this is something like we talked about like a lot like in the previous classes, but like hydration is very important. So like how much water we add to the flour, the solid ingredients, and soba noodles is considered like high hydration dough, like noodles. And so it's usually like authentic ones, like usually like over 45%. And but the ones like we make on a ramen machine are considered like kind of medium hydration ratio. And so basically, the higher the hydration ratio, the less time we should mix. Long, lower the hydration ratio, like longer time like we should mix. And talking about like water, like liquid, let me just spend just a minute like on this one, like ingredients. So water, water is very important, and then kind of water we use, like cooking noodles, like cooking the broth is soft water, because like when we cook the noodles, for example, some of the ingredients need to be released to the hot water, in the cooking water, and then in exchange the noodle gets water, and then that's how the noodle gets cooked. But like in hard water, like where which has like a lot of like minerals already in it, like magnesium, like calcium. So there's less room for all these ingredients to be released to. So when we cook the noodles like in hot water, like it takes longer time. And if it takes longer time, then like some of the noodles actually melts into the cooking water. So we lose some of the noodles in cooking water. So the yield of the fresh, I mean, cooked noodles is poor, is not good. We are getting like less cooked noodles out of the same water, hard water. So and then it takes longer time to cook. So we have to spend more money on gas, labor. So if you have to work with the hard water, then you should use softener like this, like the wine showing the picture. It's a very simple device that you can install in your restaurant to convert your hard water into soft water, and it's got a lot of benefits over time. Okay, and so talking about the different sizes, noodle sizes is very important. And this is the kind of cutter we use today on our like noodle making session in the ramen machine. Then this is the what we call like slider cutter that well this basically determines the width of the noodles. And so the width of noodles like is basically fixed by the cutter. And so the cutter size, like the size of the noodles, like thickness, width, determines the noodle texture, and so it's very important to like cross-section noodles. It's very important, and thickness is determined by the set of rollers, like the roller gap between the set of rollers. And so the thickness is determined by a set of rollers, and with it determined by the cutter size. And we can say the same thing like when we make the soba noodles like on our soba machine, which uses of course, like kind of some kind of rollers, but like different cutting method. But like, we are talking about the same thing, right? So we're just focusing on the cross section of the noodles, the size, the shape, how much is the width, how much is the thickness. So this um, affects the noodle texture greatly because um, when we cook noodles, we are having the cooking water kind of penetrating from the sides, where size the surface of the sides that are where the noodles are cut. So then after we cook the noodles, the shape and the cross section shape of the noodles becomes this kind of a square shape, right? If we cook the noodles with like with 1.5, 1.3, you're gonna have like kind of square shape, like with that like four sides dented. And when we eat the noodles, the soup, hot soup, like kind of like held between like in these dents, so that customers can like taste more of the soup when they eat the noodles. And of course, like texture wise, it's definitely better than the other pattern that is shown, like it's called like reverse cut noodles. So the cut surface, the shape of it is also very important too. Okay, well, going back to the New Year's Eve noodles, right? Other than the soba noodles, well, there are some variations of New Year's Eve like soba noodles across Japan, regional toshikoshi soba. Like toshikoshi means like kind of across the year, like New Year's Eve noodles. And well, I'm in this place called like Kagawa Prefecture, where where our headquarters is located. Because Kagawa is home of like Sanuki Udon, where there are over like 700 udon specialty shops, right? And a certain percent of people here like have bowls of udon on the eve of like New Year's instead of soba noodles. So people in Kagawa have sort of like a food culture or tradition that's a bit different from the rest of Japan. So I thought like why not promote this kind of tradition, like having New Year's Eve noodles in different places in the world. It can be soba noodles where you don't have to be soba noodles, but like udon, ramen, pasta, or like whatever you think like would bring good fortunes or joys to the families of your neighborhoods. So this is a kind of our suggestion. I think it'd be a good way to introduce this small tradition of Japan to your customers to experience a sense of being in Japan, experiencing the New Year's Eve noodles together. So we like to share some, like how noodles are made, how soba noodles are made from scratch, and share a few examples like holy noodles that you may want to introduce to your customers in the neighborhood in this class. Um, so that's what I have for this lecture part, and it's time for us to start making some noodles. Okay, so we're making something special. So we are making basically, I don't know, I actually don't know like what to call it, but like basically it's a pasta. It's a type of pasta that we're trying to make here, and so this is a flour, the high protein content flour, and this is a buckwheat soba noodles. Like but as you can see, this is like a bit darker. So this is what we call sambanko, the third flour, like we talked about in the lecture, right? And then so this is this is salt, and this is a whole egg in powder form, whole in powder form. You can use fresh eggs as well. And this is a durum semolina flour, and this is oil as well in the water. So these are going to the noodle or pasta that we're going to make. So this is it's a Richmond one machine. It's a Richmond one machine. Particularly this model is for, well, basically like it's a C certified model, which means that it can be exported into EU countries and used in EU countries to make fresh noodles, craft noodles. And it has a 10 kilogram mixer, and so you can mix up to like 10 kilograms of flour at a time. And on top of it, you're adding a liquid, right? Liquid of up to 40%. So 40% of the 10 kilograms. So 4 kilograms. And so a maximum you can get around like 14 kilograms of dough at a time. And so we are adding the liquid to the solid ingredients flour. And so this liquid, she just dissolved, it's like kind of liquid solution, well, the vegetable oil and with water and salt. And so the liquid like dripping through the holes, right, small holes to be added to the flour, little by little, so or to facilitate the good hydration of dough. And yeah, we can't really keep watching it forever. So he prepared the dough in advance. So look at the color. It's a bit darker, and from the buckwheat, the third buckwheat flour, and I wish you guys could smell it. It's got the aroma of like buckwheat because it's a sambanko, like the third flour. It's got a strong buckwheat aroma to it. And so first process after mixing, we're doing like first process after mixing we're doing is that like just kind of feeding the dough into the set of rollers and to make, well, a sheet of dough. But this is still rough, like still very fragile. It's kind of weak. I mean, in other words. And so we are going slow to apply like really sufficient pressure the dough to usually not only has like buckwheat. So the buckwheat flour in this pasta just add 10% to the total solid ingredients, just 10%. And so it's like a lot of percentage, like most of the percentage solid ingredients is actually wheat flour. In this case, this recipe. So it's got which has like a lot of gluten in it. So um, we need to, well, develop a gluten structure inside dough by applying good pressure to the dough. So that's why you're going slow. The first round of sheeting. Okay, so the mixing is not yet done. We just mix it for 4 minutes, and then we're gonna add the remaining amount of liquid into it and mix it for 6 minutes. And we talked a little bit about like hydration ratio, like or relationship between like hydration ratio, varying amount of hydration ratio and mixing time. So basically, the higher the hydration ratio, the less mixing time, less time like we should mix, and the lower hydration ratio, the less longer the what mixing we should mix, right? And this is considered like medium hydration ratio noodles. So we mix it for 10 minutes in total. For high hydration ratio noodles like soba noodles, like 100%, let's say 100% or like 80 to 20% ratio soba noodles, the mixing time would be like just 5 minutes. And when we're talking about a Hakata style like tonkotsu style noodles, like thin and hard noodles, like low hydration ratio noodles, the mixing time would be like 15 minutes. And now we're doing the combining process because the dough sheet is still very fragile, it's very weak. Um, so we want to make it stronger, firmer by compounding them through the roller. So what she's doing now, like, is kind of separating it to two sheets, right? Two sheets of dough, and compounding it through the set of rollers, right? And yeah, look at the color. It's yeah, it's like so. It's I think it's cross between you know well yellow pasta and like a bit like kind of pale greenish soba noodles. So it's a I'd say it's a good color and definitely definitely has this like strong like distinctive smell of buckwheat. Yeah, blending buckwheat flour into your noodles would be like good idea and then like bring a lot of like health benefits, but like we need to be careful. Like if you're some of your customers like have like allergy to buckwheat, and we should we need to like well of course like um, have a like clear display of like or like or label that it's like these noodles like uses the buckwheat, sit like in the labels or like a display or signs at your restaurant. Okay, so that was the combining process, and that was the first one. And um, we usually do like this process like twice to make sure that the gluten inside dough is like fully developed, and so she's doing like that for a second time. And after it goes like second combined process, like the dough is pretty firm, and so after it's gone through the second combined process, so she started like see that like she's dusting it because well, from this point on, we don't want the noodle sheet to stick, so we like to dust some flours on it to make sure that it's not gonna stick. And the type of dusting product that we are using in this case, because it's for like overseas, like it's a well, certain I mean supplies with like certain ingredients are not available. So the type of like dusting product that we use for this is just well, potato starch or like corn starch that helps like noodles from sticking. But when making, as we talked about in the lecture, right? So when making authentic soba noodles, they use what they call like hanako. That's the powder that they can take from the core of the buckwheat seed. So after the second combined process, so all we have to do is just thin it to the final thickness. Okay, the mixing is done, and then the buzzer let you know that mixing is done, and it stops automatically. So she's doing like another round of sheeting, thinning, and um, we need to like thin it. We need to like make the dough sheet thinner gradually, bit by bit. Otherwise, like if you thin it like drastically, right, then that would damage the dough, which undermines the noodle texture. So we wanna like gradually thin it. And because it's considered like well type of pasta, um, we like to cut it with a cutter that well turns this dough into well the shape that's considered like type of pasta, and well the shape like I mean by like kind of cross section of noodles. Okay, so that this dough just went through the molar gap like 1.5 millimeter, and the actual thickness is 1.8. So there's a difference of like 0.3 millimeter, and the actual thickness is always bigger when the dough has like 7% of the gluten. The gluten bounces back. So there's a, in this case, like there's a 0.3 millimeter difference. And we're cutting this dough with, it's a round shape, like number 18. It's like 1.7 millimeter width. It's a round shape cutter. It's not exactly like precisely round, but like it's kind of like oval shape. And this cutter and this size you usually use for to cut well spaghetti and the certain types of pasta like that with the size around that size. And so we are cutting it. So what this machine is doing now is like actually like thinning it and cutting it and portioning it, like three things at the same time. I mean, things like in a series of actions. So thin, cut, and portion. And the portion, there's a cutter that rotates inside this machine to portion the noodles. And the portioning is, well, basically, basically determines the size of the noodles by, well, shortening it, shortening the length, or like, making it longer. So the cutter, you can with a touch of knob, like you can make it longer, you can make it shorter to have like smaller serving size, to make it longer, to have bigger serving size, you will. So see, like I was very short, but like this time like very long, like bigger serving size, definitely. So that was the pasta, kind of special pasta with the buckwheat and semolina flour like needed in them. And I wish you guys were here like to take a smell of it, and it's got like really strong aroma of buckwheat, and then the color wise, it's almost like also like kind of soba noodles like color, like even though it has like just 10%, with just the 10% of solid ingredients to weight. Um, because we use the kind of buckwheat flour that we call like sambanko, the third flour, which has like a lot of minerals, like which has like high ash content, and so that the color is darker and has like really stronger buckwheat aroma, and the noodle texture is a bit coarse because it has a lot of minerals in it. Um, so it kind of like affects the noodle texture as well in that way. So I think the kind of balancing, well, we talked about blending ratios of like different solid ingredients. So you need to like balance between like kind of how strong the buckwheat aroma should be, like you want the customers to experience, and then how coarse the noodle texture, you'll be okay with, and depending on maybe like flavor of the soup you're serving it with. Um, so it's a well it's a recipe, and it's like blending ratio that you need to consider, like like by kind of imagining what kind of noodle texture you want your customers to experience, and what kind of flavors you want your customers to taste, right? And with soba noodles, like production soba noodles is very sensitive and like very deep, and noodle making artisans, like they like spend like years like learning how to master the skills of like noodle making, right? And so although we have like noodle school, like just the specialty noodle school, like teaching just soba noodles. Well, that's conducted in Tokyo school. So it's a very serious subject. Like it's a very good. You know, well, it's like there's a lot of depth to it, and we actually have like textbook. That's written just on soba noodles, just on noodles, and also talks about like all these like different grades of buckwheat flour. We talked about in a lecture. So if you are interested in, you can check it out on our website. All right. So it's time for us to move to the kitchen. Okay, so this is our kitchen, and well, but when we conduct classes like school, like this is where we do like culinary cooking sessions. And so as you can see, we have like all these like cooking equipment that allow us to cook like do some serious cooking. And this is an induction cooker, like big ones, like 10 kilowatts. Um, these pretty big ones, pretty powerful. And these induction cookers, for example, like allow us to cook for different types of very thick noodles like tonkotsu broth, like pork, like thick broth, like they're made from like pork bones, pork backbones, like even like pig head, um, trotters. So it's so we have like all these like different equipment over here, like to allow us to like different types of cooking, um, to allow us to like create parts, actually the components of like that come together to complete the recipes of our students. Each student who has his or her own ideas, like what kind of noodles dishes that they want to make. So these items, like this place, helps our student learn and create, develop their own recipes, noodle recipes. And it's very intense. Like we conducted over like just 6 days in Kagawa, Tokyo, and Singapore. And other thing is that like we've been like preparing the e-learning courses like online courses that we're hoping to substitute some of the curriculums that we do in like real courses. Um, so for those who are interested in, please let us know. Then we'll keep you guys updated. Right. So well, we have like all these different stuff like over here, different types of sauces, um, the oils, flavored oils, and apparently they're making some like stock out of the red snapper fish over here. So it's kind of interesting. But like, let me introduce our chief instructor first. So Mr. Ikeda, so he's our chief instructor, and then like he has like strong background in Chinese cuisine, and so he's done several like previous classes for us, and then we're lucky to have him like teaching like all these well different noodle dishes, coming from the strong background in Chinese cuisine. So so if you have any questions, please ask him online, and I will be happy to answer questions. So thank you, Mr. Ikeda. Thank you. So Mr. Takeuchi, he's from, he's actually from like Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, and he's lucky to have him because like he speaks both native English and native Japanese. He has a strong background in Japanese cuisine, more towards the kind of sushi um, category, and lucky to have him to show us a few examples of like New Year noodle dishes today. So, and you can call him Thomas, and I'll pass it to Thomas. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Akira. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. Once again, my name is Thomas. I'm one of the instructors at the Yamato Noodle School. And today I'll be introducing you guys the Japanese New Year's Eve tradition, Toshi Soba. So let's go over to the board to, let me just briefly talk about Toshi Soba. Okay, so Toshikoshi Soba. So the direct translation is ear crossing soba, or it's also called a New Year's soba as well. So Japanese people have enjoyed the Toshikoshi Soba on the New Year's Eve to wish a good year next year. And the reason why they have soba noodles on New Year's Eve because the symbolism of soba noodles, because soba noodles are long and thin. It symbolizes long, peaceful life. So to wish for a long, peaceful life, they have that soba noodles. And also, soba noodles are very healthy. So to wish for a good health, they eat the soba noodles. And also, compared to any other noodles, soba noodles are tend to break and cut very easily. So it's symbolizing cutting away any bad luck uh, built up in the throughout the year. So these are some of the common reason Japanese people have eat soba on the New Year's Eve, and it's called the Toshikoshi Soba, New Year's soba. So today I'll be making the traditional Toshikoshi Soba, and also just a slight arranged New Year's soba. It's a pasta version. So today I'll be making those two dishes. So first of all, I'll be making the traditional New Year's soba. Okay, so first of all, I need to boil the soba noodles. So I'll be using this. And first I'll boil these for about a minute. Make sure the water is rapidly boiling. And start the timer. And you want to see the noodles be like moving around freely in the pot for the consistent boil. And once the noodles are boiled, I'm going to wash the noodles to remove the starch around the noodles and chill the noodles. And because Toshikoshi soba usually enjoyed in hot version, I'm going to heat up the noodles again and put it together with the soup. Okay, the noodles are ready. So let's go over to the sink to wash the noodles. So make sure to wash the noodles to remove the starch around the noodles. And then now I want to chill the noodles. Okay, so the noodles are ready. Now the last step, I'm going to heat up the noodles again and put it into the bowl and add the soup in later. And I'm going to heat up the noodles for maybe 10 seconds. And strain out the water so it doesn't dilute the soup. And into the bowl. And I'm going to pour this hot soba dashi into the bowl and put some toppings, and that'll be it. Okay. Okay, for the toppings, I have leek, fish cake, and boiled spinach. Okay, so boiled spinach, leek, fish cake, and also crispy prawn tempura. Just gonna add a little bit more of this leek. So Japanese people enjoyed this toshikoshi soba on New Year's Eve to wish for a good year next year. So next, I'll be making a little bit of a different take on the toshikoshi soba. It might be difficult to prepare all these ingredients, so I'll be making a pasta version of toshikoshi soba, and I'll be using a pasta with some little bit of buckwheat flour mixed in. So buckwheat pasta, and I'll be making tomatoes, seafood pasta dish out of this. Okay. So first, I'll be preparing the sauce. So a little bit of olive oil, and a little bit of garlic, thinly sliced garlic. So I want to extract the garlic flavor into the olive oil. I'll start boiling the buckwheat pasta. I'll boil these for 2 minutes. And I will add in some clam. And also some prawn. And shimeji mushroom. And just saute these ingredients. And I'll add in some tomato sauce. And also a little bit of this boiling water to thin out the sauce. And I'm going to just simmer the sauce with the ingredients to extract all the umami into the sauce. I'm going to add a little bit more of this boiling water. So make sure all the clam is opened up to just check if it's completely fully cooked. Okay, the noodles are ready. Pick up the buckwheat pasta with the strainer and into the sauce. So allow the pasta to soak up all the sauce. Okay, so the pasta should be ready now. I'm going to plate the pasta. So I'm going to use a tongs to just pick up all the pasta. And with all the toppings and the sauce. And lastly, I'm going to put some shiso leaves on top. Instead of basil, I'm just going to put shiso leaves. And just wipe off the side. Okay, so this is the seafood tomato pasta using buckwheat pasta.
So thank you so much, Thomas. That was a great presentation. That's the last presentation that we have like for this year. And well, like we are kind of hoping that you guys will be able to like make this kind of like New Year soba, like some New Year like even noodles or like holiday noodles, and develop your own, and well, like put them in a package, right? Put them in a package like meal kits like we talked about like in last class. And our sister company, Sanshio, well, actually has like this package. Well, it's got like kind of frozen. Well, this is the 80-20 ratio soba noodles with well the hot soup, frozen hot soup, right? And then of course like along with like other like ingredients like for toppings and condiments and other things, they put them in a package like this like kind of beautiful box. And so they have like because they're into like retails, like they're into wholesales, so they have like these kind of brochures, kind of beautifully like kind of shot picture with pictures. So it's something that our like restaurant, we restaurants, right? I mean, may be able like think about doing, right? Like for our, it doesn't have to be like this kind of sophisticated like or nothing like that, but like you just we've got like some like really good noodles, like kind of unique ones, and broth like soup sauce even. And well, it doesn't have to be soba noodles, it has to be like pasta noodles like that we just did, like anything that you think you be like develop and serve like as a like holiday noodles that you think would bring joy and happiness, and then maybe like well to fortunes. And by educating customers like what kind of tradition we have in Japan, like New Year, like why we eat soba noodles like in December 31st every year. And so well by to be able like to stay close, stay healthy, right, stay fortunate for the next year, right, with our loved ones. So that's the kind of like message like we wanted to like convey to you guys um, in this last class we have on this 2020. And we are hoping that like next year, like 2021, will be like definitely a better year for everyone. Um, every one of you guys, and definitely like for our customers. And so we keep doing this online classes and then we're gonna improve them. We're gonna improve them from now on, and then to better serve you guys, to be able like provide like more useful information, something that you guys can like start using right away. And so if there's like anything that you are interested in like learning about, like um, wanting us to do, please feel free to like let us know on our through our website, email, any other like communication methods. And for those of you like for having like subscribed to our YouTube channel, like we're gonna be doing like these kind of classes, and we're gonna be like updating, posting a lot of like videos that are will be very useful for your businesses. So please subscribe to our channel if you haven't done that. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you. Bye bye.